This is the best advice I ever got while I was working a job that I hated. So, like 15 years ago, I was working this blue collar job. It was a factory job, paid very well. But I was working like 60 hours a week and I hated every second of it. While I was there was this guy who I looked at as being a lifer. I was like, this guy's never leaving. He's here forever. He had been there for 20 years, didn't look like he was going to leave. But all this time, as he's slogging away in this factory job, he was trying to build his own carpentry business. So eventually he told everybody, he's like, guess what, guys? I'm leaving. He had 2 weeks left. And one of his last days, I went over and talked to him. And I wanted to know, I was like, dude, how did you survive this for 20 years? I'm like, I don't feel like I can last here. And he said to me, he's like, you know something? Every single day, I worked on getting myself out of here. He's like, I worked on building something that I knew could help me escape. And then he turned and he pointed to the factory and he goes, just look around at this place. Once you see it for the prison that it is, once you see management for the wardens that they are, he's like, you'll turn into a prisoner. And like any prisoner, the only thing you'll think about while you're here is how do I get out of it? So I went over and I asked him, I'm like, so how do you do that? Like, what's the practical thing? And he's like, and then he went into this whole thing about Shawshank Redemption and how he'd watch Shawshank Redemption and the fact that Andy Dufresne in that movie every single night would work a little bit on digging out the prison walls that would eventually become his tunnel out of prison. And he said every single night that's what he would do. He would spend hours just working on carpentry. At first it was mastering the skill, and then eventually it was actually doing the thing and building up enough stuff that he could eventually turn it into a full-time business. And he was telling me about that. He's like, I spent, 3-4 hours a night, sometimes 5 hours a night working on this thing. And every day I would do it. And the hope was that maybe one day it would take me out of this place. And that's what allowed him to cope with being there. He knew eventually this thing that he was doing at night and on weekends was going to get him out. And here I am some 15 years later, and I know exactly what he meant now. I work a full-time job. I've been there well over a decade. I think most people there probably see me as a lifer. It's not a bad job. I don't love it. I do it because it pays the bills. But in my spare time, what little of it I get, I do this show. I write hockey articles. I make hockey content, really. And the thing that gets me through my 9 to 5, other than I know I need to do it to provide for myself and my family, is that every single day I make content. And I know that if I consistently do that every single day, then I will have a day where eventually that is going to help me escape the 9 to 5 job that I don't want to be in. And that hope every day, that feeling that maybe today's the day, that little bit of hope is what helps me cope with working at something I don't love.